Some thousands of years ago, a tiny settlement lay on the plain of the Liffey, that river beside whose smoothly flowing waters the fabulous Princess Isolde once dreamed of love. Today, Anna Livia Plurabella flows through the city of Dublin, capital of Ireland. Past brewery wharfs it flows, past bridges and buildings that have seen the mingled pageant of a nation's history unfold. A river that wends its way from the mountains to the sea, carrying on its waters the traffic of modern commerce. As it widens into the bay, the foreshore of Clontarf and the headland of Howth bear witness to the epic struggle between the Norse invaders and the Irish under their High King Brian. For on Good Friday of 1014, at the very gates of the city which they founded, the power of the Vikings in Ireland was broken forever. The bay is fringed with mountains to the south, and by the romantic charm of Killiney. While to the north, the head of Howth stands guardian over a city which softly nestles beside its setting of sea, sky, and hills. Dublin's aspirations are reflected in its characteristic piety. Day begins with prayer. Its routine jobs proceed with much the same patterns as those of any large city, but its tempo is gentle and leisurely. Friendliness is proverbial, for everyone has time to be interested in his neighbor. Leisure is important to the Dubliner. Beside the busy shopping centre of Grafton Street lies the pleasant park of Stephen's Green. It is a microcosm of that greater heritage which the Dubliner possesses at the very gates of his city. Sport and recreation of all kinds spring from the natural environment of sea and hills. The national pastimes of Gaelic football and hurling bring their thousands of followers to Croke Park, where the finals in the inter-county games decide the champions for the year. Excited crowds are seldom disappointed by the standards of sportsmanship displayed. The annual shows of the Royal Dublin Society are reminders that Dublin is the capital of an agricultural community. And this society, which was founded in the 18th century, has not only fostered rural activities, but has provided Dublin with many cultural amenities. In the 18th century, Dublin was the centre of a colonial parliament adorned by the oratorical genius of Henry Grattan. In this city of extreme wealth and acute poverty, political hopes ran high when the formation of Lord Charlemont's volunteers seemed to indicate a step nearer the realization of a greater independence for the nation. It was a gay city which held its levees at Dublin Castle. State religious functions were held at Christ Church Cathedral. This age left Dublin a rich heritage of enlightened town planning. The broad streets lined by gracious, well-proportioned houses, pleasant parks and squares for recreation. St. Stephen's Green, Merrion Square, the Phoenix Park, ringing the city are the pleasant waterways of the Grand and Royal Canal, still used for inland transport. The great houses of Dublin were the contribution of an age when good taste was an essential feature of society. Powers Courthouse, Aldborough House, Charlemont Casino, and Charlemont House. Leinster House is today the home of Ireland's Parliament. The beautiful exterior decoration, fireplaces, ceilings and stairways are the work of master craftsmen who in many cases were specially brought to Dublin to add to the beauty of the city. Public buildings were magnificent in scale, and the Custom House designed by James Gandon is a fine example. The forecourts originally entrusted to Thomas Cooley was completed by Gandon. The Royal Exchange by Cooley is today the home of the Dublin Corporation. The Royal Hospital Kilmainham was built in the late 17th century for the reception and entertainment of ancient, maimed and infirm officers and soldiers. Stephen's Hospital and the Rotunda, the first maternity hospital in these islands, enshrine Dublin's medical tradition which goes back many centuries. Learning and the arts have flourished in this city. Through the gates of Trinity College, many famous writers, statesmen, philosophers and scientists have passed. For this was the University of Edmund Burke, Oliver Goldsmith, Bishop Berkeley, and Jonathan Swift, Dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral. This great man was born beside the castle steps. Bitter satirist and immortal author of Gulliver's Travels, he lies buried in his cathedral beside the Stella whom he loved. His last gift to his city was the mental hospital of St. Patrick's, the charity of a man whose heart was torn by savage indignation at the social and political wrongs of his age. It was the heyday of the arts in Dublin. Richard Brinsley Sheridan of Dorset Street wrote the School for Scandal. His father, Tom Sheridan, was impresario of Smock Alley Theatre, whose brightest star was the incomparable Peg Woffington. John Field of Golden Lane invents the nocturne and is buried in far-off Moscow. Michael Kelly of Mary Street creates the role of Don Basilio in Mozart's Figaro in Vienna. On the 13th of April, 1742, at Neil's Music Hall, Fishamble Street, George Frederick Handel conducts the world premiere of The Messiah. But a great age was passing. Tyranny opposed the demands of freedom-loving patriots. In the liberties and secret places of the city, the United Irishmen planned revolt that ended tragically in the dock of Green Street Courthouse. Death, imprisonment, or exile came to many. So died Wolfe Tone, father of Irish republicanism, Lord Edward Fitzgerald. Robert Emmet, the romantic star of Ireland's aspiration, who was to be lamented by the poet Thomas Moore. And so seemed to die too the hopes of a nation. The Act of Union with England was passed. The Irish Parliament was no more. An aristocracy fled, leaving decay behind them, and a dream that Dublin has never quite forgotten. The 19th century dawned. Dublin became the centre of Irish nationalist activity. Daniel O'Connell, the liberator, won Catholic emancipation and became mayor of the city. Catholic places of worship sprang up, and education for Catholics became a reality. The sinister influence of Dublin Castle resisted the aims of patriots like Parnell, who denied the alien attempt to set a boundary to the onward march of the nation. Dublin has ever been a city of writers. The tragic Mangan sang of dark Rosaleen, the eternal spirit of Ireland. The brilliant Oscar Wilde spent his childhood beside the park of Merrion Square. George Bernard Shaw was born in the modest neighborhood of Sing Street. Douglas Hyde, afterwards to become the first president of a new Ireland, inaugurated with the aid of men like Owen MacNeill the Gaelic League for the Preservation of the Irish Language. And so was opened up a whole new literature to which later generations have added. Irish music and pastimes have moved forward beside the study of that language described by the 17th century poet Geoffrey Keating. Milish tanga an reilig, go gon hawir hekrie, glor geir chin glee glin gasta suir chelia sult vlasta. The awakening of national consciousness produced a rich flowering in English. The movement which W.B. Yeats and Lady Gregory began developed great writers like Synge and O'Casey and led to the foundation of the famous Abbey Theatre. Outside it all stood James Joyce, inspired chronicler of the city, walking into eternity along Sandymount Strand. The soul of the nation was in ferment. Arthur Griffith, inspired journalist and statesman, founded Sinn Féin and preached self-reliance, which, interpreted by the poet Pádraig Pearse, led to the seizure of Dublin in 1916 and the proclamation of the Irish Republic. Years of tragic struggle lay ahead, but Dublin and with it the Irish nation rose like a phoenix from its ashes. Dublin, once the stronghold of Viking, Norman and Saxon, had at last returned to its people. And so, as night comes to the city of the Liffey, in the growing dusk, the shadows from its great story fall across the waters of the flowing river. Its people snatch the last few hours from the rationed day and enjoy the less organized but more spontaneous pleasures of the city's night.
Guinness, please.
Reflections bridge the night with the ripples of the morning breeze as Dublin wakes to a new day. Fort of the Dane, garrison of the Saxon, Augustan capital of a Gaelic nation, appropriating all the alien brought, you give me time for thought, and by a juggler's trick you poise the toppling hour.
Oh, greyness run to flower, grey stone, grey water, and brick upon grey brick.